Welcome to Fly on the Wall podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sonksen, CEO and founder of Church Boom. Here you get to sit in on a live coaching session as I coach pastors through the ministry challenges we all face. If you find this podcast helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast today. We're going to be talking with Pastor Dean from Virginia. It's going to be a great conversation. I love talking with him and what God's doing in his life and his church. But before we do that, I want to remind you at Church Boom that we coach pastors and rescue churches. And if we can ever help you do that in any way, or if you need some help, reach out to us at churchboom.org. We are always here to help. Pastor Dean is from Virginia, and we're talking about how to keep vision in front of your leaders and your volunteers and getting everybody moving in the same direction. It's something we all need to hear. I'm excited about this conversation, so let's check it out. So let's jump into it, man. How can I serve you today?
Sure. So my church is a small church. We're a church of less than 50 people. About 100 people watch us online right here in Yorktown, Virginia. And so trying to get alignment. We're 10 years old now, and trying to get my team in alignment and get my vision so they can see the same thing that I'm seeing. And one of the challenges I have is that I have a 100% volunteer team. I'm the only staff person. And how do you recommend, like, what's the best ways or some practical ways to keep sharing vision with them? And since I can't have a staff meeting with them on a Tuesday during the day because they're working, but what's some suggestions you can give me?
Yeah, no, that's great. I think a lot of guys, especially when you're, a church under 100, any church under 100, I think is going to be in that same boat. It's not like you're having all these staff run around your offices during the day. And so you don't have that. I think a couple things. One, I think it's important to find regular rhythms. First, I think it's important to divide who's what. So is it that do you have a staff that is the department, like children's worship? Maybe there's 3 or 4.
I do.
And okay, that's a staff. I would meet with them more regular than I do anybody else. Maybe you meet with them every week or probably every other week. I think would probably be enough. I would look at that. Then I would go down into leaders and volunteers, and I would move into probably a rhythm of quarterly with all volunteers. So if I'm looking at staff, I'm probably going to do that once or twice, a couple times a month, probably a couple times if they're all volunteers. If they're open to that, I don't know what their schedules are like or their world is like, but if they're open to that, that'd be awesome. But then I want to make sure that I'm getting all the volunteers together and everybody that serves and trying to do that quarterly.
Yeah.
Let me add a second thing that I talked about recently on a podcast, and that is when you've got staff that you don't see, or people, key leaders don't see, pretty much you only see them on Sunday. Another thing that you can do is, besides what we just talked about, is the digital approach. And that is doing
ask about that.
A quick little 90 seconds on your phone from you to all your leaders, all your volunteers. Maybe you do one to the staff, just here's what's coming up, here's what's happening. Or maybe you do one to all people in the church that are volunteers. Maybe you do that once a week.
Would you post that on YouTube or just like a quick?
I would text it to them, and I would do it right on your phone. And I would always include celebration, because you want to make sure to attach what they're doing to why they're doing it. So
awesome.
That's an important part.
Can I show you something real fast?
Yeah, and show me anything you want.
Look, what you just said. I think this might be backwards right now, but I'm going to share.
No, it's not.
I'm going to share this with my team. I'm going to share this with my team on Sunday, and talking about what these wins are so far, and so they can know. So right now, the very top one, you see, we have 19 people in our serve team.
Yeah,
but I just want to show them, hey, these are wins that we're celebrating.
That's great. So I love that. And if you can do that on a regular basis, maybe you do, I don't know, every Friday morning, maybe you drop a 90-second video to just the staff or a 90-second video to all volunteers, or do it maybe one to everybody. I would do a celebration on those 90-second videos. So I'll just give you an example. I would do a celebration, and then maybe a quick little announcement, or a celebration with maybe a quick little kind of encouragement or maybe a reminder of our values or something about our culture. But it'd be like this. Hey, everyone, it's Pastor Dean. I just want to give you our Friday update. Hey, I just had a conversation with someone that's kind of new to our church. Man, their marriage was a mess, but in the last 6 months, their marriage has turned around. You know why that's possible? Because of the way that you serve. And I just want to say thank you for serving. Your serving made that story possible. You're changing lives, and I just want to let you know that it matters. Secondly, I just want to tell you, hey, don't forget that, A, B, and C is coming up and da-da-da-da. Or, hey, I also want to remind you just one more thing, that always remember at the church that we value X. And man, let's make sure our lives reflect that. Hey guys, have an incredible day. I will see you Sunday. It's going to be awesome. You're like literally 90 seconds or less. But if you're going to do it, be consistent, because they'll learn to expect it. And if you text it to them, they're more likely to open it. I mean, they'll open up it. And as long as they always know, like, hey, whenever I get something from him, it's 90 seconds or less.
Yeah.
So
I like that 90-second rule, because that anybody can watch a 90-second video and to get an update that way. That's a great idea.
Kind of name it something, 90 seconds with Pastor Dean, or something like that, and everybody just knows that he's going to give a quick report. But the celebration is important, because I think you and I talked about this before, because volunteers get paid with fruit, not with money. And I don't know if we've talked about that before, but they have to get paid with fruit, and the fruit is the stories and the changed lives, and that can only happen if they're being told by you. So when you don't tell them, it's like you're not paying them, right? Because they get paid with fruit. So you got to tell them. So I would do something like that. So I would do something digital on a regular, quick basis, and then I would create some regular rhythms as well.
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question too about you talking about celebrating, sharing stories? Like when you're sharing stories with your team, like how do you not break those confidences? Like, do you ask that person if you can share the story, what's happened in their life, or you just assume because you're talking about your top level leadership, you don't really need that?
I usually don't mention names at all. Okay. And then it's just a mystery. And I don't. And if they share with me something. Let's say our marriage was a mess a year ago, and the words like affair comes up, or I'm probably not going to say that. What I'm going to say is, man, a year ago there was a couple that was coming to our church, and they were really facing some difficulty. Maybe who knows, the marriage wouldn't have made it. But in the last year, God's changed their life, and I just talked to them just a couple days ago on the phone, and they were just thanking me, and I just want to thank you guys, because it wouldn't happen without you. Again, that's more awesome. Fruit. That's it. That's exactly how you do it. Right.
Yeah. I love that. I love how you said the fruit is their payment. Because like you said, they're not getting a salary, but knowing their lives are being changed because of what they do. I mean, that's huge.
Right.
That's huge.
But a lot of people, just real quick, a lot of pastors get out of the rhythm of paying their volunteers. So they don't do a video. They don't do a quick celebration in the huddles. They're not showing them the life change. And so equate that over financially. If you're not showing volunteers life change and stories and keeping it in front of them, it's like you're not paying your staff. And if you're not paying your staff, they're not going to want to serve. And it's the same thing with volunteers. They get paid with fruit, and you got to keep them motivated with the fruit.
I need to do a better job at that, because I do a good job of thinking about our service and trying to create that kind of, let people know, be aware of the tasks. I focus on tasks more easily than I do the fruit for them. And so I need to do a better job sharing those stories, because as a pastor, I know what's happening, but they haven't heard or know what's happening yet. Yeah. And that's good. That's good, Pastor Chris. That's absolutely really good.
Yeah. Real what else? What else you got?
Yeah, I'm going through a situation that a lot of pastors, we all go through, and that is like offboarding a team member that's very visible. This person was a drummer and just has struggled with being in alignment with me. He's a great, awesome person, but just is not. He's decided, and I've decided, he's just not a good fit for the bus anymore. Yeah. And how do you recommend like offboarding somebody, and just what suggestions you would make?
Yeah. Well, I think it's much more difficult in a smaller context, because I am not a fan of that we constantly have to parade someone on the stage when they are stepping down from a position. I just think, man, you get in the habit of doing that. I think that can be dangerous because then everybody expects it. And
Right,
then
right.
and sometimes it's really, really good and healthy and right, and they're moving and they need to be honored. But then there's sometimes where it's not really good and healthy and right. And then what do you do? I'd rather do that in a setting outside of Sunday morning. I prefer those kind of settings, like the staff got together or the key leaders got together and threw a little party or all met for dinner or whatever. In a situation like that, I think that's much healthier. Let me ask you this: is he leaving the church?
He is. He told me that he is leaving the church.
Okay. And he plays the drums? Do you feel, based on where he's at, that the entire church needs to know?
Well, being a smaller church context, like
Yeah,
it's going to be obviously visible that he's not
sure.
playing because he's played for 5 years,
No,
and
I get it.
so being a smaller church too, I think the word is getting around already. He's made it very known, and that he's moving on, and so I'm just trying to navigate that because then
Yep.
people are asking me, well, what happened, and trying to figure out like what to share or not share, or trying to balance
Yep.
those things.
Well, in a context like that, again, I'm not a fan of parading it on stage again, but because I don't see how you find the win in that.
Right,
He's
exactly.
leaving your church because he doesn't agree with you. I mean, I don't know, when it all comes down, he's a nice guy, but at the end of the day, that doesn't convey well. That's a hard navigation. What I would do is one thing for sure. And I'm not sure if you've already done this, but I always say the meeting before the meeting is the most important meeting. So the meeting before the meeting is with your leaders. So people always say, the most important meeting is when I tell the church. I'm like, not at all. The most important meeting is when you tell the leaders. So if I were you, I would bring my key leaders together and just say, hey, whoever,
Yeah.
Tom or whatever his name is stepping down. I think there's some philosophical differences, but he's stepping down. It's been very healthy. It's been very great.
Yeah.
If you hear anything, let's make sure it stays positive.
That's good.
That's
love
what
that.
I think that's what I would do.
Love that, Pastor Chris.
I would stay in that vein. And that way, call it 6 leaders that you have, or 7 or 8 in a church of 50 or whatever. You got 8 out of 50 people. You got, that's a decent percentage.
Sure.
That is touting the right story, saying the right thing, conveying and navigating the right. They're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I want to honor him because he's, like you said, he's a terrific person, very faithful, but he's just not a fit on that bus anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I want God to bless him and his family,
Right.
so just I know that's going to make some room too
Yep.
for someone new coming in and fresh
Yeah.
vision and fresh people. And so just trying to navigate that, but I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
trying to figure out
Yeah.
what's the
That's
best
what I
step
would
to
do.
do.
I would, pull the leaders aside, create the most healthy narrative, and then make sure that they're sharing that same narrative.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then instead of one person out there, you got 8 other people out there that are going, no, that's not the story. The story is this, and I know that, and they're able to put out the fire.
yeah. One of the challenging components that I'm trying to navigate too is that his parents are part of my serve team as well,
Oh
and
yeah.
so that makes it a little more interesting to try to navigate
Have you met with
through
them?
that. I've talked to them multiple times, not face to face,
Okay.
but I've talked to them multiple times and shared some things from my perspective, and I think they've appreciated that. And
Yep.
but I appreciate your wisdom there. It's
Yeah,
really good,
absolutely.
super
Of course. Yeah.
super helpful.
Cool. What else you got?
Just trying to get back to alignment thing, and communicating that, and I like what you're saying earlier, like having these digital moments, these 90-second Fridays, and also like a once a month with a team. Have you found out, talking to other pastors, your experience too, like, is there a good time to meet, like with a volunteer team, good time of day or good time of the evening that they're available, or do you just go one-on-one and say, hey, what's best for you? Um,
Oh, yeah. I think on a church that size, just figure out what's best for everyone. Yeah, that's easy.
yeah,
A lot of people enjoy Sunday after church because you can provide some childcare, bring in some lunch, and they're already there anyway.
right.
But maybe that doesn't work for everybody. Maybe they've got other things going on. But I would just ask in a church that size. I think I would just ask. But
Yeah,
no matter what, you got to keep you got to keep up those opportunities to cast the vision and have those moments. So one way or another, make that happen. Because remember, I always say that vision leaks and people drift. And so the vision's always leaking, the people are always drifting. So it's our job to constantly be course correcting, constantly be going, okay, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we're about. You have to do that. And if people
Right.
if you don't do that, man, you're gonna lose the vision for sure.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And being a small church, I've been told that pastor just focus on preaching, don't focus on the other staff. And
Yeah.
I really have a heart for creating that experience for new people coming to a church. And so
Right.
I'm really invested my time and energy to try to create a welcoming experience. But like, how would you respond to someone that says, "Pastor, just preach, don't worry about the rest of it"? If you feel like God's given you a talent and an eye for those kinds of things.
Let me follow up with that question. So, if a
Sure.
person's saying to you, "Hey, just do the preaching, don't worry about the rest of it," what is the rest of it? What are they talking about?
Yeah, good question. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
So what's easy for me to do is easy for me to get tied into like the greeters and make sure they're doing,
Yeah.
greeting well and what kind of resources they need, or it's easy for me just to step into that role
Hmm.
or see what's maybe lacking. And
Hmm.
so I think what they're saying, "Hey, pastor, you've given us that responsibility. Don't take it back.
Oh,
Let
well,
us
yeah. I think that
let us
there's
lead with that."
I think that there's a balance there. If they're not doing what they need to be doing or they're falling short, then they need
Yeah.
to, you got to have a talk with them and kind of help them. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to kind of be lording over them and make them feel like, man, you give me a task and then you come and check on it every 10 minutes. And clearly you don't trust me because you're sending a signal that you don't trust them. And if you delegate, and always remember, Pastor Dean, if you delegate task, you create followers. If you delegate authority, you create
Mm.
leaders.
Wow, Pastor Chris, that's so good.
So
That's so good.
you're
And I've
trying
erred,
to get
and I've
leaders.
erred on the other. I've erred on the task part, not the authority part.
Yep.
And I'm trying to shift
So
that
you're gonna
now.
create, and then you're gonna create followers, and you don't want that. You want to create leaders. So you want
Right.
to give away authority, and then check in with them. Everything going okay? Anything you need from me, and help develop their leadership so that department gets better. Your job is put the people in place, the best people you can find in place, and then make them better.
Yeah,
Make
that's
them
so
better.
good.
If they're a 5, make them a 7. But if all you do is delegate to tasks, all you're going to get is followers.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then the church will grow to the level of the pastor's personality. The church always grows to the level of the pastor's personality. And you're
yeah,
just going to get followers. You delegate authority, you get leaders. And that's
yeah,
what you really want. You want to ultimately get leaders. So I find a leader, and then now I got these 7 leaders, and I'm developing them. We're going through a book together. We're getting
yeah,
sharper. I'm meeting with them one-on-one. How's that going? Maybe you should work on this. Maybe you could do this. Maybe you could do this. I'm I'm not ministering to them. I'm ministering through them. And that's
yeah.
really the difference you want to make in
And
that.
that's and I'm trying to distinguish that as a pastor and as a leader. And even now, I know it's sort of it's not too late, but I just need to do a better job. I have a book on the other side of my computer here, The Atomic Habits,
Oh, yeah.
and
Good book.
so I just want to, there's a couple of people I want to walk through that and help them establish some better habits as a leader,
Right.
and go through that together. And I just reached out to somebody today. I'm like, "Hey, would you do this with me? Walk
Yep.
with this through this with
That's
me,
it.
and
That's it.
let's check in once a week, and let's have a discussion about it."
Yep. That's it. So you just got to figure out, okay, who's my top leaders of the departments and how do I make them from a 5 to a 7? Or whatever,
That's
from a
good.
4 to a 6,
That's good.
whatever the number is. But you're trying to raise them up, 7, 8, whatever their capacity is. Your job is to develop them and minister through them and make sure they have everything they need for success. But you do have, so that comes down to knowing, really, Pastor Dean, is knowing what I call is your mission critical. Okay, what are the things that you absolutely have to be doing? That, okay, I've got to be, well, okay, I'm a communicator. I got to be communicating. Okay, great. What else? Not 20 things. What are the top 4 or 5 things? Probably more like 3 or 4 things. Well, I have to be developing leaders. And
Right.
those leaders got to be developing teams. So you develop the leaders and the leaders develop the teams. So you're no longer leading followers, you're leading leaders who lead the followers. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I realized during my work week, I got a message to prepare for, but I've got to add value to 3 or 4 leaders this week. I got to help take them from a 4 to a 4.2 to a 4.4, and I got to keep raising them up. That is my priority. Some of the guys think, okay, I'm going to run around. I got to visit this person in the hospital. I got to do this. I got to run over here. And I get that. I mean, especially, I get church planning. Dude, I've done it many times. We got I've done it. And, but the thing is, I think, is that we miss, like, one of the biggest things you should be doing is I develop leaders to become strong, big, effective leaders, because you get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 leaders that go from a 5 to an 8. Your church is not going to stay the same size. It's just not, because they're more effective. So that's what I would be looking at.
It's such great wisdom. I appreciate that. And I definitely need to do a better job at those things and not be so focused on just the task, but really developing the people that are leading the church and leading these areas. Because I have like 7 or 8 people that are leading over different areas in the ministry of the church, and they have people under them. So I really need to start pouring into them and let that trickle down to those other leaders on the team. Yep.
It's got to be one of your, what I call mission criticals.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And here's how you know a mission critical. If Pastor Dean doesn't do blank, our future is threatened. What's the blank? If he doesn't go to every hospital visit, our future is threatened. That's not true. If he doesn't develop leaders, our future is threatened. That's true.
Right.
So all you got to do is fill in the blank. If Pastor Dean doesn't do blank, our future is threatened. What's the blank? That's how quick you get to it. That becomes mission critical. It separates. What you're doing is you're trying to separate from what's important to what's mission critical. Yeah, it's important that these people are visited in the hospital or whatever it is, but it's not mission critical for me. It does need to get done, maybe a little bit by me, maybe a little bit by someone else, but what's mission critical for me? I have to do this or we don't grow.
Right.
And
powerful, Pastor Chris. That's so good. Thank you for sharing that. I've made a lot of notes. You see me keep looking down because I'm making notes.
That's all right. Anything else, or are we good?
I think we're pretty good, but I definitely appreciate your investment in me and time in my church and leadership. Thank you.
Well, whatever I can do to serve you, man, I'm always here to serve and always here to help. And I just want to see you win. So whatever I can do to help see you win, man. All right. Okay, buddy. Have a good day, man. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you for tuning in to the Fly on the Wall podcast. We hope today's episode provided you with some practical steps to lead your church to the next level. If you found this episode helpful, take a moment to leave us a review and share it with others. Remember, when the pastor grows, the church grows, and we grow pastors. We love you. We're your raving fans, and we are cheering you on. See you next week.